Welcome to Peace Within, the journey of forgiveness. I have Montez. Montez, I want to thank you for accepting the invitation. Please give us some insight of who you are.
Hi, my name is Montez Cannon. I'm a mother of five, one biological for adoption. Um, I go to church. I'm your average older person. Go to church, raise my kids. My job I love. I'm a foster parent coach. So my whole life is built around kids in foster care.
Wow. Thank you for being a foster parent. Thank you for adopting and loving the children. Can you give us what is it like to be a foster parent?
Mhm. It's a challenge. It's a big challenge because children are coming with trauma, and some traumas are worse than others. Some behaviors are better than others. So that's why it's important for you to take the trainings and things of that nature, so you can be in touch with the children maybe going through within their trauma. Like I stated, I've adopted four kids. The ages are 29, 14, 12, and 10, and I had my younger two. I think my youngest was 5 months, and yeah, I've been doing it for a while, and I love it, and I love them, and they love me.
So, how did you start this journey of being a foster parent?
Okay. Well, I work within the foster care system. I was working for an agency called Flock for the Love of Children, and I kept seeing the kids come in, and they were look like they weren't being well taken care of. And I worked for a foster care agency, and I kept saying these parents getting all this money for these kids and not putting it to them. One thing about me, I know if you look good, you feel good, you'll do good. So I wanted to bring a light in someone else's life. So I decided to open up my home for foster care, not only for the kids but for their parents as well. Because what I've learned in this circle, that it is a circle, and a lot of times people within the circle can't see themselves. And when I work with the parents, I was a birth parent advocate at one time, just to enlighten the parents on how they were into care and their kids into care. It wasn't clicking, and then when it became the click, I was able to help a lot of them say, this is not my kid. I'm gonna get my kid back. I'm gonna make sure my kids stay safe. So I had, the privilege of doing that, working with the parents as well as the children.
Okay. So, what were some obstacles you dealt with while not becoming, but being a foster parent?
Well, my first one was a hellfire. She was a fire starter. Oh, she was a fire starter. Um, she was prone to lying, fabricating her stories. That's my oldest that I adopted. I got her when she was 7. She was going on 8 years old. And when I spoke with the judge, he was telling me a lot of things that she's already endured. Was just prone. It was in her. That was her DNA. That was her family dynamics. So we worked through that. I asked for in-home therapy, and the therapist was able to come in the home, and I was able to see what the therapist saw because we wasn't made up going into the office. She was able to see us in our surroundings, in our home, and a lot of things she touched based on opened up my eyes. Like one day I was fixing spaghetti, and Trey, her name is Trey Andrea, she kept running in the kitchen. Ma, you got this, you got this. And the therapist had to stop and say, wait, this is not your mom, Betty. This is your mom, Montez. And she's going to always make sure that your needs are met. And just in my mind, I was thinking how this child had to prepare her own meals, and she was 7. Like I said at the time, she came in and showed my son and I how to make noodles in a microwave because I don't know about that. I cook every day, so she was came and showed us different things too. But it just gave me an insight on what things that she was doing when in her younger years.
Mm. I thank you for sharing that because it showed us that they also have some things that they have to overcome, and we have to be aware to how to meet them in the middle. And you met her in the middle. She told she told you how to cook oodles and noodles
Yes, yes,
in a
yes.
microwave.
In the
Oh,
microwave.
oh my goodness, that was so beautiful.
Mhm.
Because to her, it. that was a moment, a moment of sharing her experience, even though we like, ooh, cooking oodles and noodles in the microwave. But I'm glad that you allow her to be herself and grow. How did you help her therapeutically with the fire starting? And what can you give us some insight? Like, why was she doing these things?
Well, I don't know why she was doing it, but she was put in an institute, PIW, and it was a psychiatric ward, and had to be there for 28 days so they can evaluate her. I went all 28. Well, I went 27 days except for the one when her birth mom was supposed to go and see her, but didn't show. But I would go up there, play games, speak with the therapist, and things of that nature. And what they would tell me, because of her trauma, she wasn't able to articulate, I guess, everything that she saw because she was so young. But they was just saying that these are some of the behaviors, how they act out, fire starter, bedwetting, and things of that nature.
Okay. And how long did she do the fire starting until she stopped
Mhm. I
setting
think
stuff on fire?
I think after that 28-day little
Oh,
vacation she had, she wasn't playing with fire no more. Yeah, she wasn't playing with fire no more. And
oh,
let me
that
say,
set her straight.
that
Okay.
set her real
That
straight.
baby, that behavior was dismissed eighth in 28
Yeah,
days.
out of there, out of
Wow.
there. Yeah, yeah. So, now she's a mom of one. She's
Yeah.
studying to be a crime investigator. She's still in
Mm,
school. She works for FEMA, federal government. She's doing good. So I can say everything that we did go through transition her into a better way of living.
yes. Thank you. And
Mhm.
thank you for not, because you could have been um, knowing, her behavior, I understand people put in 30-day notices. And
Yeah,
you could have been
yeah.
like, nah, let me
Mhm.
give my 30-day notice. But thank you for, persevering and showing her love in spite of. And that's what life is about. Showing love in spite of. Showing God's love in spite of, and going to God and asking God, how can I help this person in spite of what they doing? And that's dangerous, but
Mhm.
you also shared that you go to church. Give us some experiences of your spiritual walk.
Okay. Well, my grandmother was a pastor. She became a pastor when I was 9 years old. And she told me, she said, I'm starting a church. She said, my grandmother was the type would play pity pat. That's a card game. I don't know if y'all familiar with that. Pity pat and things of that nature. But when she came into her calling, she was just saying she couldn't do those things no more, that she was starting a church. And because I was a girl, I had to be connected with her because she was making sure that I stay safe at all costs. And she told me, I want you to start me a choir. And so I said, okay. And at the time, again, I was 9 going on 10. And I had a couple of girlfriends. I was like, y'all go with me to church. My grandmother buy you McDonald's. So that's how the tradition started. We go to church, she take us to McDonald's. And through that, I built her choir. Didn't know how to sing, but learned somehow. My brother played bass guitar. My grandmother played the lead. And she started her church. And I was engruded ever since into um yeah, that's how my religion or my faith walk began. Like I said, I joined the choir. I began to sing. I became one of the lead singers. I was a youth leader of our youth program at one time, just planning things for the kids, keeping them encouraged, keeping it fun. What I know is things that you do and people have a good time, they go tell somebody else, and that somebody else want to have a good time. And that same with my grandmother. She was out there. She was helping people. She wasn't a woman that just would take your money and your tithe and your offering. She put her business to work. You could call her 3 o'clock in the morning. We was all getting up going on a mission. And that's how she was. She was just a people giver. And I guess that's where I learned that from. Always wanted to see people do good and be supportive in their life in any way that I can be. And I learned that from her. So, but in my faith walk, I try to be like that, even with giving to the shelter or people less fortunate, I look at that as giving my tithes. That's my tithe, and that's me helping someone else out.
Wow. Thank you. So let's dive in it because this is peace within the journey of forgiveness. And thank you for sharing us a little insight of who you are, your foundation, and how you became a foster parent. So, when did you say, you know what, let me start this journey of forgiveness?
Um, a lot of things that we go through, we say that we forgive people, we really don't. But because you get hurt by people, and sometimes things trauma you, or make like, I ain't gonna do that no more. I'm not gonna mess with that person no more. But it's always good to forgive because we're human. We're walking in flesh, so people are gonna do things that we have to be open and forgiving for. In my grandmother's transition, my father and I went through a little disagreement. My grandmother, because I was her only girl that she raised, I was up under her. She wanted to transition all her business over to me. And my dad thought that because he was her son, that
Uh,
rightfully he was next in line. But she was like, nah, because I've been rolling with Sissy all along. And through that became a family disturbance. Um, I had to look back and try to understand where he was coming from because that was his mom. But what he didn't know that was I watched her walk from day one because I was 9 when she started. And when he was out partying, I was in church, gathering the choirs together, doing what I had to do. So she felt as though, business wise and for church's sake, that I knew what her calling was, how to operate, and things of that nature. So she put it in my hand. I went to court. He took me to court. It was terrible. But through that, I had to look and just say, that's his mom. So I understood how he felt, but he didn't understand the relationship that her and I had. So I had
mm,
to forgive him and my sister because that brought a division. And where they wanted to stay divided, I told him, I understand how you feel, but I have to do what I have to do for her because she raised me. So I wanted to give back, even though it caused a confusion between him and I. But eventually I had to, come to him after a transition and let him
mhm.
know, I understood that was your mom. And the whole time I forgave you, even though you were mad at me, wasn't talking to me. But yeah,
Um,
yeah, I had to do what I had to do for her. I had to stand in the gap for her as she stood in the gap for me when I was younger.
mm. How did you feel knowing that your father have changed his love for you and now coming at you in another way that you had never experienced before?
Mm-mm. Well, like I said, I understood it because that was his mom. And I don't think that he knew the spiritual realm of her walk. So that's why things transitioned like they did. Because when he was out partying, again, I was in the church, I was helping her. I've always honored her calling where he had no knowledge of what was going on. So within that, and having God in my life, I had to forgive him because that was his mom. You
Yeah.
know, that was his mom, and he, by birthright, he should have stood in, but she didn't desire him. So,
Yeah.
mm,
Wow, that was beautiful. How you allow yourself to forgive in spite of and understand the other person feelings, understand the other person how they perceiving this, like, mom, you supposed to do this and you supposed to do that, but your grandmother made the right decision because she built you for
mhm,
that. She raised you, she put your hands to the plow to allow you to know what to do, and she prepared you too for when she transitioned to
mhm,
heaven. Now she can give you the mantle.
mhm,
Yeah,
mhm,
that's beautiful.
mhm.
So, what about your sister? You didn't speak about your sister. You just said,
My sister, we like best buds now.
"Oh, good."
Yeah, I call her Dibbity Doo. Yeah, it has gotten better with my sister. She is, I think, 11 years younger than I am.
Okay.
And with that being said, when she was coming up, I took care of her. So that brought a division within our relationship with my dad and my grandmother. now today, like I said, we're back together. I just told her at any cost that was my grandmother. I had to do what I had to do, just like that was her dad. And she stuck up for her dad. But on the other side, that was my grandmother. Even though that was my dad, that was my grandmother. And my grandmother raised me when my dad was partying. So yeah, but now we're good. Now both of us are helping my dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like how you allow forgiveness to mend the family back together.
Yeah.
And thank you for having a beautiful heart to allow yourself to look beyond yourself, but look at other people. That's beautiful. How do you, because you know about forgiveness and you know how forgiveness mend families together, how do you help the foster, well, not the foster children, they were foster until you adopted, but how do you allow foster children and adoption come together to mend their hearts with their biological families?
Well, with me, I have an open door. I co-parent with all of my children's parents, and I like for my kids to see what the other side looks like. Because I always tell them, you ain't got to run away. I'll drop you off. See, because they know what the other side look like. They ain't trying to go over there. But, anyways, I again, their parents and all of my kids that I've adopted, parents was in foster care or
Mhm.
wasn't raised by their bio mother and father. With that being said, I try to explain to my kids they are caught up. A lot of my parents was caught up in having a good time, couldn't see that their kids was important. That okay, I got to stop the party and I got to put this down. It was about them and want to still have a good time, which sometimes you lose out. A lot of times you lose out if you don't pour into what you're bringing up. That's just like a seed. If you plant a seed, you want that good flower to grow. You have to nurture that flower. You have to be there for that flower. So when you don't get that flower any attention, sometimes that system come in because lack of food or lack of health care, not going to school and things of that nature. So with that, I try to explain to my children, a lot of times their parents are young and they just want to do their young thing. Eventually hope they'll get it and they'll slow their life down and pour more into them, into the children, and reference to have want to have a good time. I always say if you play, you're gonna pay in the end. So it's best to do what you got to do so you can do what you want to do. So if you do what you got to do, man, I got to take care of my kids, nourish my kids. You don't know, you might be raising doctors and lawyers if you don't let go. But when you let go, you get anything. So you got to pour into the kids, put and give them a solid foundation and a road to go. So with that, I allow them to see their parents when they want to. I don't talk bad about the parents. I never look down on anyone. I always try to help. I ask my kids, do you want to go see your parents? And it's their decision. And with my son, he's like, no, you said you would never force them on me. And I don't want to force them on them. But at the same token, I didn't want their parents to come back and say, no, that woman kept you from us. Mm-mm, mm-mm. I bought all my kids cell phones. So if they want to call their parents, free. You could call them. When I had birthday parties, I had big birthday parties where I invite their family, my family, everybody. We get together in my backyard and we have a good time. But the parents don't show. Some of their relatives might show, but sometimes the parents show, sometimes they don't. So
Mm. And how
yeah.
do the children react to that?
When the parents show,
Don't show.
when the parents don't show, uh it doesn't phase them because they
It
don't have
don't.
no, they
Okay.
don't have a relationship.
Okay.
Uh, one time my kid's dad showed and he wasn't at his best,
Mhm.
and I could tell because I'm looking around. I'm in the atmosphere and I'm looking at the room, and my son was like, "No, he gotta go." I don't know what my son saw in him, but I think he didn't want to be embarrassed by his peers. So when I went to go get the food, I had to talk with dad, and I was like, I don't think it's best that you stay here. So when I went to go get the chicken, I dropped them off, and I said, you can come back later, you know. But it was important for me to show my son that I had his back,
Mhm.
because sometimes when the current parents come around, we don't know what parent we're gonna get. And when I see the parent we gonna get, and it's not in conduce with them, and it's making them feel awkward or something, you gotta
Mhm.
go. You gotta go because this is their home first. Yeah,
Yeah.
we can deal with that part later, but right now they feeling uncomfortable. we got a yeah.
Yeah, I can understand. You was built to be a foster parent and adopting children. I'm just listening to you like, wow. What
Yeah.
would you say to Yeah, what would you say to the parents or people who are birthing out children so they children would not go to the system?
Hold on to your babies. Learn where you come from. Always do better. Parents should always want more or better for them for their kids than they had.
Yeah.
So wherever you are in your parenting, just make sure that you and pouring into your kids. Teach them about God because they really need that in these days and times. They need a stronger faith to hold on to. And a lot of our generation, they're not getting that. Back in my days, I can say in my days because I'm a little older, it was set upon that we went to church. And when we went to church, we dressed up for church. We dressed
Yes.
up, you feel good, you look good, you do good. But now they come in as they are. And I don't care. Come with your jeans, as long as you coming.
Yeah.
As long as they getting that word, I don't care how you getting it, as long as you getting it to want to do better in your life. I get tired of seeing young people taking these chances out here, robbing and killing, and then you going to jail for 30 and 40 years, and it's for nothing. Then you get behind there, you think about what you could have did when you was out here. Don't do it so you won't have to go out and go in. Yeah, so.
Oh man, Montez, I want to thank you for sharing. Thank you for allowing us to enter into your home and get some insight of who Montez is, a mother, adopted mother, a woman of God, and a woman who put her hands to the plow. Yes, and showing forgiveness,
Yeah.
allowing people to understand. First, once you forgive, you'll set the foundation and then you'll mend the families back together. You'll mend the hearts and not allow conflict to divide the family. So, Montez, I thank you. I appreciate you. Please come back and share us more, give us more of your wisdom, and you have a good day.
Thank you for having me. Thanks, everybody.
See
Okay.
you.
Bye bye.